Please subscribe before watching the movie. Welcome back to Movies Recap. The movie starts in the San Fernando Valley where a girl named Natalie is driving before a sudden landslide allows her to fall off the road while she survives the huge fall. Her car is stuck just above a big ditch and she can't get out soon after a helicopter with men from the Los Angeles Fire Department are being interviewed by a reporter named Serena just before they then find Natalie. One of the men named Toby heads down, but soon gets stuck, and to make things worse, their helicopter is about to have a serious engine failure. With this, their captain Ray Gaines decides to go down to help, and he does eventually rescue Natalie as well as Toby, who escapes getting hit by the car. At the California Institute of Technology, DR, Lawrence is in a class teaching about earthquakes, and a student asks if an earthquake could happen in their city, and he says it's possible on getting home. Ray gets a phone call from his daughter Blake, who is expecting him to take her to school as she's got a volleyball game. She also asks him to bring her bike when he comes to get her the next day as he searches through his mail during. He also finds divorce papers, which he has to sign. Meanwhile, Dr. Lawrence is still at the institute when his colleague, Dr. Kim, asks them to go out to test their method to predict earthquakes when they reach the site. Things are first normal and Kim is excited about their method working, but all of a sudden spikes in the chart lead to a major quake. Lawrence is able to get to safety and also urges Kim to come over quickly on his way to get to Lawrence. Kim spots a young girl who looks really scared and he goes to pick her up as he's about to cross and reach Lawrence. The quake destabilizes him and he passes the girl to Lawrence. Kim then realizes that he's stuck, and shortly after the quake breaks off the entire bridge with Kim falling off with all the debris. Much to Lawrence's disappointment, as Ray prepares to leave and meet with Blake, he receives a text that he has to come to work, but first he has to meet Blake on getting to the house. Blake welcomes him and tells him she understands that he won't be taking her to school anymore. When they go in together, there is Emma, Ray's ex and Blake's mom, and also Daniel, Emma's boyfriend, waiting for them. They greet each other and it doesn't take long until things get uncomfortable for Ray, as Daniel volunteers to take Blake to school and also to watch her volleyball game after they make a stop at his company in San Francisco. Daniel also mentions that Emma is moving in with him and Ray is surprised. He eventually leaves handing over Blake's bike to Emma, who then tells him she had wanted to let him know about moving in with. Ray says there's no problem, and tells her he'll sign her divorce papers too on the plane to San Francisco. Daniel and Blake have a good chat where he also shows her one of his best buildings, which he calls one of his kids. And soon they reach his office where he then leaves Blake to hang around. She then meets Ben, who is there for an interview. And later Ben's talkative brother Ollie, who is very interested in talking to Blake. Meanwhile, Lawrence returns to work and his co-workers share their condolences for Kim's death. Not long after, Serena comes over to interview him on what had happened, but before they get deep into the interview, his attention is drawn to new images showing sudden high spikes in the charts, meaning a huge earthquake was coming with San Francisco as one of the places it would hit first. Meanwhile, Emma is having lunch with Susan, Daniel's sister, at her restaurant, and things seem to be getting tense at their table. Before Ray calls Emma, he apologizes for the other day, and just as they're on the call, an earthquake starts. Emma tells Ray where she is and he tells her to go to the top of the building and he'll pick her up there. The earthquake becomes so serious and things start falling on random people in the restaurant. In a bid to run away, Susan falls off the building. Emma then makes her way to but just as she gets there, the ground starts opening up and she takes a huge fall, but survives. Ray is soon able to get to her and despite debris falling in their way, he rescues her and they get to a safe flying zone elsewhere. Daniel is through with his work at the office and asks Blake to come with him to leave. She says goodbye to Ollie and together heads down with Daniel to the garage. As they're there, they experience an earthquake and Daniel instructs the driver to keep driving towards the exit. As they almost reach there, a hole opens up and the car falls in with the driver getting hit by falling debris, and Blake also getting stuck. Daniel tries unsuccessfully to get Blake out and then heads out to get help. As he tells a security guard about Blake, something falls on the guard and Daniel falls into shock. Ben and O see Daniel and tried for Blake, but he's still in shock and just walks away out of the building. Back in the garage, Blake is able to reach her phone and she calls Ray, who tells her he's coming to get her. Not long after Ben and Ollie reach the car, and with Ben's smart moves, he's able to get Blake out of the car into safety. At Caltech, Lawrence discovers that the earthquake could get even worse, and despite all that had been witnessed, it wasn't over yet. With that, he and his crew, along with Serena, head to the media lab to try to get on air to inform people back in San Francisco. Ben and Ollie look for an electronics store to get a phone to call. Blake is finally able to connect with Ray and he tells her where to stay so he can come get her. Emma also talks to her and then realizes that Daniel left Blake in the garage and ran off. Pissed at this, she dials Daniel's phone and tells him off. Much to Ray's delight, Daniel, however, is walking aimlessly on the streets when another shockwave hits in a building. He's able to take cover just after he throws a man away from his spot. Finally, Lawrence is able to get on air with Serena, and he announces the extent of what is to be expected, asking people to head out of San Francisco elsewhere. Ray and Emma have to crash the helicopter when there's a sudden engine failure. They survive the crash and also have to get past some looters and steal a car, and then head to San Francisco during the drive. Emma brings up their late daughter, who died from drowning during a previous visit to San Francisco, but Ray doesn't want to talk about it as they move forward. A couple standing by the roadside waves to them, but they don't quite understand until they almost fall into a huge ditch. They return and then thank the couple who have a faulty car, as there's only a long way to go back to eventually reach San Francisco. Things eventually fix themselves, and Emma making an exchange with their car for a helicopter owned by the couple before they start flying. Ray apologizes for not saying anything about Mallory, saying he always blamed himself for her death. Emma calms him, telling him it wasn't his fault and they had to now save Blake with the helicopter. Ray and Emma are able to get into San Francisco, but the airports have been destroyed, so there's no place to land. Ray then decides to ditch the helicopter and use a parachute to get into a stadium, not too far. Together, he and Emma are able to land safely. Just about then a major shockwave is experienced at Coltec and Lawrence says it's the big earthquake he's been talking about elsewhere. Blake, Ben and Ollie are able to get some supplies from a fire truck, including a SAT phone, and soon after they realized that the building they were headed to was a no-go area, so they decide to head to a different high tower. Ben is hesitant to join in since they'll be the only ones headed the other way, but Ollie convinces. As they move forward a bit, a shockwave hits, and they have to take cover in the process. Ben gets hit with glass in his leg. Ray and Emma are also able to help people to the side of the stadium when a tall building is about to fall, with Ray saving a lady who is hurt. They all survive at the side of the stadium, and Ray and Emma get on a speedboat to reach the tower. They ask Blake to stay when they see that it's impossible to go through. Ray believes Blake must have gone somewhere else, and while he's trying to figure out, he notices the water getting sucked up and then tells Emma that it's a tsunami back at Caltech. Lawrence sees new results and tells the crew that the earthquake will be the largest in history. Meanwhile, Blake is able to help Ben get the glass out of his leg and they begin moving again, until Blake hears on the SAT phone that a tsunami was coming. With that, she tells them they must reach Daniel's building that he had shown her earlier and was not far. Back on the ocean, Ray and Emma must speed to get over the water surge that will cause the tsunami, and after avoiding several obstacles, they're able to get to safety. However, the city is not safe with the tsunami clearing everything in its path. Daniel is also seen, but this time he can't escape a container that falls on him. Blake, Ben and Ollie are soon able to get into Daniel's building, but they're not high enough with the tsunami entering into the building and throwing them off balance. They, however, survive and head for higher ground in the Blake tells Ollie to look for anything like a bandage and also clean water. And while Blake is trying to look at Ben's wound, they get caught up in the moment and they kiss, much to Ollie's delight. Ollie brings towels and then leaves again to get water. And as he's doing it, he sees Emma and Ray on a boat moving across all the debris. He calls Blake's attention, and Blake discovers it's her parents. Emma and Ray are first unable to notice them, but Ollie is able to get their A. Just as both sides are excited to see each other, Daniel's building starts sinking and more water gets in, displacing Blake, Ben and Ollie. While Ben and Ollie are able to make it to higher ground, Blake is stuck. Ryan leaves Emma with the boat and goes in to try to find Blake. He eventually does, but before he can remove all the things obstructing Blake's path, she passes out in the water. Ray manages to then get her and head up to meet Ben and Ollie, who are happy to see Blake as he's trying to revive Blake. Ray tells Ben to break a window, and as he's doing, Emma sees this and offers her help by breaking through the window with the boat. They all then get on the boat and are able to escape the sinking building when they're out. Ray continues to try his best to revive Blake, but she doesn't wake up and he looks to give up, causing Emma, Ben and Ollie to start crying, thinking Blake was dead all of a sudden. Ray continues to revive Blake, saying he's not going to lose her too. Not long after Blake wakes up, and this gets everyone happy again. They then get to a recovery camp where Ray thanks Ben and Ollie, as they all look onto the United States flag hanging from a bridge, and that is how it ended. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.